After starting 8-3, the Jaguars lose 5 out of 6, and they end up with a 9-8 record, and they miss the playoffs. This is crazy stuff. I can't believe it. It's bad for Trevor Lawrence. It's bad for the Jaguars. It's bad for Peterson. It's a step back for the Jaguars, who had progressed last year, who had looked like a very competitive team, who had a miracle against the Chargers last year in the playoffs. And everyone thought, like, their arrows all the way up. This team's going to be winning this division consistently. Like, you kind of thought of the Jaguars as the Bills a couple years back. Like, they found their quarterback. Quarterback had a great playoff moment. Division doesn't look that strong, and it's there for their taking. That's kind of how I thought of the Jaguars going into this year. I thought the Colts were gonna be, they were gonna be all right with Richardson. CJ Stroud and the Texans were gonna be awful, and the Titans were gonna be, take another step back and be, around 500, a little bit under 500, and the Jaguars were just gonna easily win the division, and it was nothing but that. The Colts, even though they lost Richardson, they were super competitive. They were in it to the last game. CJ Stroud completely turned the Texans around. He looks like the best quarterback in that division. Lawrence took a step back instead of a step forward, and the team just fell apart at the end. So what should have been a good season, what should have been, the start of the Jaguars, at least 2, 3, 4, 5 year run of, running the South for a little bit, which is what I thought was gonna happen till, CJ Stroud or Richardson, matured a little bit and were able to give a legit run for the Jaguars. It ended in disaster, man. Losing 5 out of 6 to end the season, potentially fighting for the first seed, to missing the playoffs overall, it's awful. And then winning you're in the last week against the Titans, who are not playing for anything, to go down super quick. Trevor Lawrence having crucial interceptions, crucial turnovers, and in the end they couldn't get it done. Lawrence, completely missing on fourth down. He's hurt, so you gotta give him a little bit of a pass. But overall, it's just a bad season for the Jaguars. They're gonna go into this offseason lamenting all these missed opportunities. Unfortunate that Lawrence got hurt in that Bengals game, but they should have been able to win one of these games. Browns, Ravens, Buccaneers, Titans. Like, yeah, that's a tough schedule, but come on. Against the Titans, who are not playing for anything, it should have been there for their taking. It should have been there for their taking, and they didn't get it done. And now there's a lot of questions for Lawrence. Like, he needs to bounce back next year. He never really looked amazing this year. He had a 3-game run where he was doing pretty good before the Bengals game, and then it all came crashing down. But that generational talent that people were talking about before the draft, we haven't really seen it. We haven't really seen, other than the Charger game, and the Chargers are known for, being the Chargers and choking stuff away and being just charging themselves out of victories. And now we know that Staley was probably the worst head coach last year and this year. So, it takes a little bit of the shine away from that comeback that the Jaguars had. And other than that second half against the Chargers, Lawrence hasn't really looked like an amazing quarterback. He did have a good end of the year last year, but he never really looked like CJ Stroud does this year with the Texans. Like, CJ Stroud's clearly the best quarterback in that division. Richardson has the potential to be the second one, and even Will Levis. We gotta see what he can do. But like, what seemed that it was gonna be Trevor Lawrence division to be had for the foreseeable future. There's question marks about Lawrence for sure. And I'll just give this. I'll say this to the Bears. I'll touch on this probably a little bit later or on a different episode. But Caleb Williams looks like he's a blue chipper, but he's not getting the hype or the attention that Trevor Lawrence was coming out of college. Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be the best prospect in a long, long time. He's supposed to be Andrew Luck. He's supposed to be Peyton Manning, and he has not lived up to it. And all I'm trying to say is that there's no guarantee that these quarterbacks with a lot of hype are going to be amazing. So, for the Bears, that's something to think about. Trevor Lawrence, the most hyped quarterback in a long time, is not really, separating himself from. His draft class wasn't that good, so he is separating himself a little bit from that class. But, the numbers came out today comparing him to Mac Jones. They were pretty close, but obviously he's better than Mac Jones. But, He's not really separating himself. He's not really catching up to the top quarterbacks in the league. That's something to think about for the Bears when they discuss Caleb Williams and Justin Fields. There's no guarantees. There's no guarantees. Like I said, Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be the best prospect in a long, long time. And so far, he has one playoff win that he did lead them back, but he also threw 4 interceptions in that game in the first half. So we'll see. We got to see how he does next year. Disappointing end of the season for the Jaguars.